I heard the dripping before I saw it, dark liquid seeping under the storage room door. Jack stood there, his face ashen after returning from his 4-day trip with our niece Samantha. "Where's Lily?" I demanded, panic rising as I scanned our empty house for our 5-year-old daughter. Jack's hands trembled as he fumbled with the storage room lock. "Katie, I can explain," he whispered. The truth hit me like a physical blow. Our daughter had been in there the entire time he was gone. The lock finally gave way, revealing my worst nightmare. 7 years of marriage to Jack had felt like living inside a dream. We met during my senior year of college, fell madly in love, and built what I believed was the perfect life together. Our daughter Lily came along 2 years later, a sweet, imaginative child with bouncy blonde curls and a laugh that could light up the darkest room. The only cloud in our sunny existence was her asthma, which required daily medication and occasional emergency interventions when attacks hit hard. I built my career as a real estate broker, working my way up at Westlake Properties through dedication and long hours. Jack had been in construction management until 2 years ago, when his company downsized and he lost his position. After months of unsuccessful job hunting, we decided he would stay home with Lily while I focused on advancing at work. The arrangement seemed perfect. Jack adored being a full-time dad, and I could pursue the partnership track without childcare worries. Everything changed 8 months ago when tragedy struck. My sister Laura and her husband Tom died in a horrific car accident on their way home from a dinner date. Their daughter, 11-year-old Samantha, survived with minor injuries. With no other family able to take her, Jack and I became her guardians without hesitation. Samantha came to live with us, bringing her grief and trauma into our home. The adjustment period was difficult for everyone. Samantha suffered from nightmares that left her screaming in the night. She developed intense attachment issues, especially with Jack, who became her primary source of comfort. I noticed changes in her behavior around Lily, subtle at first, then increasingly concerning. She would interrupt when Lily spoke, hide her toys, and whisper things that made my daughter cry when adults weren't listening. "It's normal sibling rivalry," Jack assured me when I raised concerns. "Sam lost everything. She needs extra attention right now." I tried to be understanding, but something felt off about the dynamic. Jack began spending more time with Samantha, taking her to special outings while Lily stayed with me or neighbors. He justified it as grief therapy for Samantha, but I couldn't shake the feeling that Lily was being pushed aside in her own home. April arrived, bringing a career opportunity I couldn't ignore. Westlake Properties was competing for a $20 million downtown development project, and my boss Patrick selected me to lead the presentation. Success would mean partnership consideration, the goal I'd been working toward for years. 3 weeks before the presentation, Jack announced his plans over dinner. "Sam and I are going to Florida for 4 days next week. We'll hit all the theme parks." I looked up from my laptop, surprised. "What about Lily?" "She's too young to enjoy it," he said, cutting Lily's chicken into smaller pieces. "It would be exhausting for her to walk around the parks all day. Besides, this trip is something special for Sam." Lily's face fell. "But I want to see the princesses, Daddy." Jack barely glanced at her. "When you're older, sweetheart, this trip is for big kids." That night, as we got ready for bed, I expressed my discomfort with the plan. It doesn't seem fair to exclude Lily. She's already feeling displaced by Samantha. "Katie, you don't understand what Sam needs right now." Jack's voice hardened. "She's been through hell. A few days of undivided attention isn't too much to ask." "What about Lily's needs?" I countered. "I've already arranged for Carol next door to help with Lily while you're working," he said dismissively. "Everything's handled." I backed down, focusing instead on my presentation preparation. Working motherhood always felt like a tightrope walk. Push too hard on family issues, and I'd be labeled difficult. Focus too much on work, and I'd be considered neglectful. Jack had been supportive of my career until recently. Now his resentment simmered just below the surface of every conversation about my job. The morning of their trip arrived in chaos. I was gathering materials for an early client meeting when Carol called, apologetic but firm. Her daughter in Seattle had gone into premature labor, and she was catching the next flight out. "Jack," Carol canceled. We need another plan for Lily, I said, watching him zip Samantha's suitcase. We can't disappoint Sam now, he insisted. Everything's booked and non-refundable. Then postpone until we find reliable childcare, I argued. Jack put his arm around Samantha, whose eyes welled with practiced tears. I'll find someone else. Don't worry so much. I hesitated, checking my watch. The client meeting couldn't be rescheduled. It was with investors flying in from Chicago, specifically to meet with me. I have to go, I said. Call me when you've arranged for someone, okay? And make sure they know about Lily's medication schedule. Jack nodded, distracted by Samantha's pleas to hurry. I hugged Lily goodbye, promising to call that night to say goodnight. Throughout my meeting, I checked my phone repeatedly. Finally, a text from Jack arrived. All set with sitter. On our way to airport, we'll send pics. Relief washed over me, followed by an undercurrent of anxiety I couldn't explain. I tried calling that evening after my last meeting, but Jack didn't answer. Instead, I received another text. At dinner, Lily's fine, we'll call tomorrow. The next day brought more vague messages. Each time I asked to speak with Lily or the sitter, Jack had an excuse. They were sleeping, at the park, watching a movie. I saw photos of Jack and Samantha beaming in front of theme park attractions on social media, but no mention of who was watching my daughter. By the second day, my unease had grown into full-blown worry. I called our neighbor Diane, asking if she'd seen anyone coming or going from our house. No one except Jack and Samantha leaving with their suitcases, she said. Is everything okay? I cut my business trip short, canceling the final day of meetings despite Patrick's displeasure. Something was very wrong at home, and my instincts screamed that my daughter needed me. The house was eerily silent when I arrived home, 6 hours after Jack and Samantha's departure. No lights, no sounds of a child playing, no sign of the supposed sitter. I ran from room to room, calling Lily's name with increasing desperation. The bedrooms were empty, the kitchen untouched. Lily's stuffed bunny sat abandoned on her pillow, a sight that sent my heart racing even faster. She never went anywhere without Bunny. I was about to call the police when I heard a car pull into the driveway. Through the window, I watched Jack and Samantha unload luggage, laughing about something. Neither seemed concerned about returning to an empty house. I flung open the front door. "Where is Lily?" I demanded, my voice breaking. Jack's smile disappeared. "Katie? You're supposed to be in Chicago until tomorrow." "Where is our daughter?" I repeated, pushing past him into the house. Samantha slipped inside, her face unreadable. Jack followed, dropping the suitcases in the entryway. "The sitter must have taken her out," he said, but his eyes darted nervously toward the hallway leading to our attached garage. That's when I noticed it, a dark liquid seeping from beneath the storage room door. My body moved before my brain could process what I was seeing. The storage room was little more than a large closet off the garage where we kept holiday decorations, and out of season clothes. The door had a lock, installed when Lily was a toddler to keep her away from Christmas ornaments and other breakables. Jack grabbed my arm. "Katie, wait, I can explain." I wrenched free, lunging for the door. The liquid was brown, sticky. The smell hit me as I fumbled with the lock, urine, and something worse. "What have you done?" I whispered, my fingers trembling so badly I could barely turn the key. Jack's face had gone ashen. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I thought she'd be fine for a few days. The lock finally gave way, and I pushed the door open. The sight inside will haunt me forever. Lily lay curled on a pile of soiled blankets, her small body drenched in sweat. Empty juice boxes and cracker wrappers scattered around her. Her eyes, when they fluttered open at the sound of my voice, were glassy with fever. "Mommy?" she whispered, her voice so weak I could barely hear her. I tried to be good and quiet like Daddy said. I gathered her burning body in my arms, screaming for Jack to call an ambulance. Her breathing came in short, labored gasps, clear signs of an asthma attack. Where was her inhaler? Where was her medication? The next hours passed in a blur of emergency lights, hospital corridors, and medical terminology that translated to one horrifying reality. My 5-year-old, had been locked in a storage room for 4 days, with minimal food, water, or medication. The emergency room doctor pulled me aside as nurses worked to stabilize Lily. "Mrs. Williams, your daughter is severely dehydrated. She has a urinary tract infection that's progressed to her kidneys, and her asthma is severely exacerbated. Has she missed her controller medications?" "She's never missed a dose when I'm home," I said, the implication of my words hanging heavily between us. "Her father was supposed to be caring for her." The doctor's face hardened. "I'm obligated to report this to authorities. This is serious child endangerment." I nodded, numb with shock and rage. "Please do. I want whoever's responsible held accountable." 2 police officers arrived while Lily was being moved to the pediatric intensive care unit. They questioned me first, then Jack, who waited in the hospital corridor looking shocked. "I arranged for a teenage sitter," he claimed when confronted. "She must have put Lily in there when she couldn't handle her. I had no idea." But his story quickly unraveled when the police requested access to our home security system. The footage showed Jack himself leading Lily to the storage room the morning of their departure, placing several juice boxes and a package of crackers inside with her. "Be a good girl and stay quiet," his recorded voice said. "This is our special secret, okay? If you're very good, I'll bring you back a surprise." Then he closed the door, turned the key in the lock, and walked away. When confronted with this evidence, Jack's demeanor changed. "I couldn't find another sitter on short notice," he admitted to the detective. "Sam was so excited about the trip. I thought Lily would be fine for a few days. The room has air vents. I left her food and drinks. It was just for a little while. I couldn't breathe when I heard his confession. The man I married, the father of my child, had deliberately locked our asthmatic, 5-year-old, in a storage room for 4 days while he took our niece to theme parks. Most disturbing was Samantha's reaction when she arrived at the hospital with Jack's parents, who had been called to take custody of her temporarily. While his parents were appropriately horrified, Samantha showed no surprise. Instead, she watched the chaos with an expression almost like satisfaction, whispering to Jack whenever hospital staff weren't looking. The doctors discovered Lily had not only missed her daily asthma medication but had developed a dangerous kidney infection from holding her urine, afraid to soil her makeshift bed, but eventually unable to help herself. She was severely dehydrated, her electrolytes dangerously imbalanced. She could have died, the pediatric specialist told me bluntly. Another day in those conditions, with her asthma uncontrolled, she likely would have. I collapsed into a chair beside Lily's hospital bed, holding her tiny hand with its IV line, watching the monitors track her vital signs. How had I missed the signs? How had I trusted Jack with our daughter's care? The weight of my failure crushed me even as rage built inside my chest. This was deliberate, calculated, and somehow, Jack had believed he would get away with it. What kind of monster locks a child in a storage room? I asked the silent hospital room as Lily slept, sedated, and fighting infection. What I didn't realize then was that the storage room was just the beginning of the nightmare. The real horror was what I would uncover in the days to come. For 3 days, I barely left Lily's side in the pediatric ICU. I slept in the uncomfortable hospital chair, waking at every change in her breathing or beep of the monitors. The doctors worked to stabilize her condition, fighting the infection with powerful antibiotics and treating her compromised lungs with nebulizer treatments and steroids. On the second day, a woman named Angela Roberts from Child Protective Services arrived to interview me. Her questions cut to my core. "Did you have any indication your husband might harm your daughter?" she asked, pen poised over her notepad. "None," I whispered. "I knew he was favoring Samantha, but I never imagined he would do something like this." "Were you aware of any previous incidents of neglect?" I started to say no, then hesitated. There had been small things. Lily's increasing anxiety when I worked late, her reluctance to be alone with Jack, her new habit of hoarding food in her bedroom. I had attributed these changes to the disruption of Samantha's arrival and grief. "I think I missed signs I should have seen," I admitted, shame washing over me. Angela's expression softened slightly. "Mrs. Williams, parents who are aware of abuse and do nothing are complicit. Parents who are genuinely unaware are victims too, along with their children." After she left, I made a decision. I needed to know if the storage room incident was truly isolated or part of a pattern. Our home security system saved footage for 3 months. Using the hospital's Wi-Fi, I logged into the account from my phone. What I found destroyed any lingering doubt about Jack's culpability. Night after night, when I worked late, the footage showed Jack ignoring Lily's calls for dinner, leaving her to forage in the kitchen while he and Samantha ate meals he'd prepared. It showed Lily crying outside the bathroom door, while Jack helped Samantha with her bath, telling Lily to figure it out yourself. Most disturbing were the clips of Jack hissing at Lily to stop bothering Sam when she sought his attention, sometimes grabbing her arm roughly to remove her from rooms where Samantha was playing. I watched weeks of systematic emotional abuse and neglect unfold in horrifying digital clarity. Lily gradually stopped asking for help, became quieter, more withdrawn. The vibrant, confident child I knew disappeared a little more each day on camera. While Lily slept, I dove deeper into our shared financial accounts, discovering more betrayal. Jack had opened 3 credit cards in his name only, racking up thousands in debt on unexplained purchases. Large cash withdrawals peppered our joint checking account, none of which I'd authorized. He'd been systematically draining our emergency fund for months. My phone filled with text messages from friends and colleagues who'd heard rumors about the situation. Some offered unwavering support. Others questioned how I could have been so blind. My friend Teresa wrote, "We all saw how Jack was with Samantha. No one wanted to interfere, but it seemed off from the beginning. Had everyone seen what I'd missed?" The thought kept me awake as Lily's monitors beeped through the night. My real estate colleague Amanda visited on the 3rd day, bringing coffee and genuine concern. "Patrick's furious you missed the final meetings," she warned. "But most of us are on your side. My husband Brian is a family attorney. He says you need legal representation immediately." She was right. Jack had already hired a lawyer who specialized in fathers' rights. His legal strategy was becoming clear through the messages his attorney sent. Paint me as a workaholic who neglected her family, and Jack as an overwhelmed caregiver who made one terrible mistake. With Amanda's help, I connected with her husband Brian, who agreed to represent me. "We need to document everything," he advised during our first phone consultation. "Every incident of neglect, every financial discrepancy, every concerning interaction with Samantha." I threw myself into building a case, reviewing security footage frame by frame while Lily underwent treatment. The more I looked, the more I found. Lily's fear of the storage room hadn't started with the 4-day imprisonment. Footage showed Jack using it as punishment for minor infractions in the past, locking her in for timeout periods that extended for hours, while Samantha watched with satisfaction. I discovered something else reviewing the footage. Bedwetting, which Lily had never experienced before, had started shortly after Samantha's arrival. Instead of offering comfort, Jack would become angry, sometimes making Lily wash her own sheets in the middle of the night. Amanda brought me a laptop so I could continue working while staying with Lily. On it, I found text exchanges between Jack and Samantha that chilled my blood. They had been planning the Florida trip for weeks, with Samantha sending messages like, "Just us without the baby?" and Jack responding, "Yes, princess, just us. Lily won't bother us." The messages revealed a disturbing pattern. Samantha's jealousy of Lily had been deliberately stoked by Jack, who positioned himself as her savior against the annoying little kid who ruins everything. He encouraged a rivalry between the girls while pretending to mediate it. Jack's parents arrived from Arizona on the 4th day, bringing Samantha to the hospital despite my objections. Barbara and Thomas Williams had always adored Jack, their only son. I expected their condemnation, but the reality was worse. "Jack showed poor judgment," Barbara said, perched awkwardly on the edge of the visitor's chair. "But he's been under tremendous strain. Taking in Samantha, supporting your career, being primary caregiver. People make mistakes under pressure." "A mistake?" I stared at her in disbelief. "He locked his asthmatic daughter in a storage room for 4 days with no medication. That's not a mistake. That's abuse." Thomas cleared his throat. "Katie, you're understandably upset. But Jack has always been a wonderful father. This one incident doesn't define him. One incident that nearly killed Lily. I said. And it wasn't isolated. I have footage of months of neglect and emotional abuse. They exchanged glances, clearly unconvinced. Samantha hovered in the doorway, her expression unreadable as she stared at Lily's unconscious form in the hospital bed. "We're taking Samantha back to our hotel," Barbara said finally. "The judge approved temporary placement with us, while this situation is resolved. Jack wants you to know he's sorry and hopes you'll consider family counseling once things calm down." After they left, my mother Susan arrived from Chicago, a whirlwind of righteous anger and practical support. Unlike Jack's parents, she saw the situation with brutal clarity. "That man will never be alone with Lily again," she vowed, arranging Lily's stuffed animals around her hospital bed. "I've taken family leave. I'm staying as long as you need me." Her presence allowed me to sleep more than 20 minutes at a stretch for the first time in days. With Mom watching over Lily, I met with Detective Michael Rivera, who was handling the criminal investigation. "We have enough for charges of child endangerment and neglect," he told me in the hospital cafeteria, "but we're still building the case. The more documentation you can provide, the stronger our position." I handed him a USB drive. 3 months of security footage showing a pattern of neglect and emotional abuse. Plus, screenshots of text messages between Jack and Samantha discussing their trip and how to keep Lily out of the way. Detective Rivera's expression remained professional, but his eyes hardened as he took the drive. "This will help. I should warn you, though, first offenders with good lawyers often get probation rather than jail time, especially in family cases." "What about a restraining order?" I asked. "We can request an emergency protective order based on the evidence. Given the severity, I think the judge will grant it." As we finished our conversation, my phone lit up with a text from Amanda. "Check Jack's Facebook page. Now." What I saw made my blood run cold. Jack had posted a long, self-pitying narrative about being an overwhelmed father who made one terrible mistake because his wife chose career advancement over family stability. Hundreds of sympathetic comments followed, many condemning me for forcing Jack into the role of primary caregiver when he clearly needed support. The public narrative was shifting, painting Jack as a victim rather than perpetrator. I showed Detective Rivera, who sighed heavily. "This is unfortunately common. Start documenting every false statement. It will matter in both criminal and family court." When I returned to Lily's room, she was awake for the first time since being admitted, her blue eyes clear, though still ringed with exhaustion. My mother stepped out to give us privacy. "Mommy," she whispered, her voice hoarse from the breathing tube that had been removed that morning. I was really scared in the dark room. I took her small hand, fighting back tears. "I know, baby. I'm so sorry that happened to you." She looked around the hospital room. "Is Daddy coming?" The question broke my heart. "Not right now, sweetheart." Her lower lip trembled. "Was I bad? Is that why he put me in the storage room?" "No," I said firmly, stroking her hair. "You did nothing wrong." "Nothing. What happened was not your fault." Lily was quiet for a long moment, then said something that confirmed my worst fears about how long the abuse had been occurring. "Daddy said I had to stay in the quiet room so Sammy could be happy," she whispered. "He said Sammy is his special girl, and I have to learn to be good like her." In that moment, I knew our lives would never be the same. Whatever it took, whatever I had to sacrifice, Jack would never hurt our daughter again. Lily was moved from intensive care to a regular pediatric room on her 5th day in the hospital. Her physical condition had improved, the infection responding to antibiotics, her breathing stabilized with treatment, but emotionally, she remained fragile. She startled at loud noises, whispered instead of speaking normally, and panicked if the door to her room was closed completely. The child psychologist assigned to her case, Dr. Meredith Chen, spent an hour with Lily each morning. "She's experiencing acute traumatic stress," Dr. Chen explained after their 3rd session. "The imprisonment itself was severely traumatic, but I'm more concerned about the ongoing emotional abuse that preceded it." "Will she recover?" I asked, watching Lily color quietly in her hospital bed, something she would have approached with enthusiastic mess-making before. "Children are remarkably resilient," Dr. Chen said, "but healing requires safety. Absolute safety. She cannot be exposed to her abuser during this critical period. I nodded, determined to protect Lily at all costs. The emergency protective order Detective Rivera requested had been granted, legally barring Jack from contacting Lily or me, or coming within 500 feet of us. Jack's parents were allowed supervised visits with Lily as Samantha's grandparents, but the judge specified that Samantha could not accompany them due to concerns about her role in the dynamics. On the sixth day, as I returned from the hospital cafeteria with coffee, I found Jack waiting by the elevator bank on Lily's floor. My body went rigid with shock and fury. "You can't be here," I hissed. "There's a protective order." "I need to explain," he said, stepping toward me. Gone was the remorseful father from his social media posts. His eyes were cold, his posture aggressive. "You're blowing this whole thing out of proportion. Lily's fine." "She nearly died," I said, backing away, "because you locked her in a storage room for 4 days without her medication." "It wasn't that bad," he insisted. "Kids bounce back. But if you keep pushing this, if you keep dragging my name through the mud, I'll fight for full custody. Your work schedule alone makes you an unfit mother." A security guard noticed our confrontation and approached. "Sir, I need to see your ID and visitor's pass." Jack backed toward the elevator. "This isn't over, Katie. You have no idea what you're up against." After he left, I reported the violation to Detective Rivera, who added it to the growing list of charges. The protective order was extended and strengthened, forcing Jack to move out of our family home into his parents' hotel temporarily. Samantha was placed with Jack's parents under court supervision, an arrangement that deeply concerned me given their dismissive attitude toward Jack's actions. During their first supervised visit with Lily, Barbara brought a handmade card from Samantha that read, "I miss you. Daddy says we'll all be together again soon." The implied message sent Lily into a panic attack so severe that the visit was terminated early. After that, the court required a professional supervisor for all grandparent visits. As Lily's physical condition improved, new challenges emerged. Westlake Properties placed me on probation due to my sudden abandonment of the development project. Patrick called personally to deliver the news. "I sympathize with your situation, Katie, but you left us hanging with major investors. Take the time you need for your family issues, but understand your partnership track is on hold." My mother's presence was a lifeline, but even with her help, I struggled to balance hospital visits, legal meetings, and gathering evidence against Jack. Every day brought new financial discoveries, accounts drained, credit cards maxed out, mortgage payments missed. Working from Lily's hospital room, I began investigating every aspect of our home life. I discovered a small camera, hidden in Lily's bedroom, ceiling light fixture, not connected to our security system. After consulting with Detective Rivera, technical experts confirmed Jack had installed it recently and had been monitoring Lily remotely during the Florida trip. Even more disturbing was the discovery that 6 months earlier, Jack had anonymously reported me to Child Protective Services, claiming my work schedule constituted neglect. The case had been investigated and closed without my knowledge, but the report remained in the system, now appearing to support Jack's narrative of me as an absentee mother. Reviewing Lily's school and medical records revealed another pattern. Jack had systematically isolated her from my family and support network. Playdates canceled at the last minute. Missed doctor's appointments when I was traveling for work. Notes to teachers requesting they contact only him regarding any issues. Most chilling was what I found while going through my late sister Laura's personal effects, which had been in storage since the accident. Her journal contained entries expressing concern about Jack's attention towards Samantha months before Laura's death. "Jack offered to take Sam to the water park alone again today," one entry read. "3rd time this month. It seems excessive, and Sam comes back with expensive gifts every time." When I mentioned it to Tom, he said he'd talk to Jack about boundaries, but I'm uncomfortable with the whole situation. I shared these discoveries with Brian, who was building our case for the custody hearing. "This strengthens our position," he said, "but be prepared. Jack's attorney is aggressively pushing the narrative that you're using the storage room incident to distract from your own parental shortcomings." Indeed, Jack had launched a full social media campaign portraying himself as the victim of my career ambition. Friends we'd known for years were taking sides, many publicly supporting Jack's version of events. He gave tearful interviews to local news outlets, claiming he'd made one desperate mistake because he'd been overwhelmed with grief and responsibility. While Jack's public rehabilitation campaign gained traction, our financial situation deteriorated rapidly. Without my income and with legal bills mounting, I fell behind on the mortgage. The health insurance covered most of Lily's hospital stay, but the deductible and co-pays quickly depleted my savings. After 10 days, Lily was discharged from the hospital with a treatment plan and follow-up appointments scheduled with both medical doctors and her psychologist. Returning home presented new challenges. Lily refused to walk past the storage room, screaming in terror when we needed to go through the garage. My mother and I rearranged the house to create a new pathway that avoided that area entirely. The first night home, Lily woke screaming from nightmares 3 times. By morning, we were both exhausted and emotionally drained. Yet we had to prepare for the preliminary custody hearing scheduled for the following week. Despite overwhelming evidence of abuse and endangerment, the family court judge seemed sympathetic to Jack's tearful mistake defense. Judge Raymond Hartley, a man in his 60s with traditional views of family structure, repeatedly referred to the importance of fathers in children's lives. While the court acknowledges the seriousness of Mr. Williams' lapse in judgment, he stated during the hearing, we must consider the totality of his relationship with the child and his previously unblemished record as a caregiver. Brian argued forcefully about the pattern of neglect and emotional abuse, presenting the security footage and text messages as evidence. Jack's attorney countered by focusing on my work schedule and absences, suggesting the real neglect came from my prioritization of career over family. To my horror, Judge Hartley granted Jack supervised visitation rights, despite Lily's obvious terror at the prospect of seeing him. The visits would take place at a family counseling center with a court-appointed supervisor present, but the message was clear. The system viewed Jack's actions as redeemable. This is just preliminary, Brian assured me outside the courtroom. Once we get to the full custody hearing, we'll present the complete evidence package. But I need to be honest with you. These cases can drag on for years. Years of fighting. Years of Lily being forced to see the man who locked her in a storage room. Years of financial and emotional drain with no guaranteed outcome. That night, after settling Lily to sleep in my bed where she felt safest, I sat with my mother in the kitchen, nursing cups of tea that had gone cold. The system is failing her, I said, my voice hollow with exhaustion. Mom squeezed my hand. Then we work outside the system. We document everything. We build a case so strong no judge can ignore it. And we never stop fighting for Lily. The next morning, as Lily picked at her breakfast, she looked up suddenly with a question that cut to my core. Mommy, why didn't you find me sooner? I had no answer that didn't sound like an excuse. The truth was, I had trusted Jack. I had missed the signs. I had failed to protect her. In that moment, I realized the legal system might not save my daughter. The police, the courts, even Child Protective Services were bound by procedures and precedents that often favored reconciliation over protection. If I wanted to ensure Lily's safety, I would have to take matters into my own hands. That realization came just in time. The following day, my friend Diane called with alarming news. Katie, I just overheard Jack at the coffee shop. He was on the phone talking about job opportunities in Arizona. He said something about, once I get the girls away from here. A quick search confirmed my fears. Jack had been applying for construction management positions in Arizona and researching countries with weak extradition laws. He wasn't fighting for custody out of love for Lily. He was planning to take her and Samantha and disappear. I had hit rock bottom, exhausted every legal avenue, and still my daughter remained at risk. That's when I knew the system wouldn't protect Lily. I had to become the protection she needed, by any means necessary. The preliminary court ruling allowing Jack's supervised visitation rights was just the first in a series of systemic failures that left Lily vulnerable despite overwhelming evidence of abuse. 3 weeks after Lily's hospitalization, we faced Judge Hartley again for a more comprehensive custody hearing. Jack's attorney, Martin Reynolds, came prepared with character witnesses, including Jack's former employer, his church pastor, and 3 neighborhood parents who testified to his attentive parenting before Samantha's arrival. They painted a picture of a devoted father who had cracked under the pressure of grief and dual caregiving. "My client acknowledges his grave error in judgment," Reynolds told the court. "But one must consider the extraordinary circumstances. Losing his sister, in law, and brother, in law. Taking in a traumatized niece. Supporting a wife whose demanding career often left him without partnership in parenting." I watched in disbelief as Jack dabbed at non-existent tears, portraying perfect remorse. The Jack I had seen in the hospital corridor, threatening and cold, was nowhere visible in this performance. Brian presented our evidence methodically. Security footage showing patterns of neglect, medical records documenting Lily's deterioration, text messages revealing Jack's preferential treatment of Samantha. He called Dr. Chen to testify about Lily's psychological state. In my professional opinion, Dr. Chen stated firmly, forcing Lily to have contact with her father at this stage would cause significant psychological harm and impede her recovery from trauma. Judge Hartley seemed unmoved. "Children are naturally resilient," he countered, "and the bond between father and daughter should not be severed without extraordinary cause." "Your Honor," Brian argued, "deliberately locking a 5-year-old with a chronic medical condition in a storage room for 4 days constitutes extraordinary cause by any reasonable standard." But the judge had made his decision before we ever entered the courtroom. Jack was granted continued supervised visitation twice weekly, with the possibility of expanding to unsupervised visits after 6 months of demonstrated improvement and commitment to therapy. Leaving the courthouse, I could barely breathe through my rage and fear. "How could the judge ignore so much evidence?" I asked Brian. He sighed heavily. "Family court judges have enormous discretion. Many still operate under the presumption that children need both parents regardless of circumstances. We'll appeal, but you should prepare yourself. This custody battle could last years and cost tens of thousands of dollars." The financial reality was already becoming dire. Without my full income, struggling with legal fees, and with Jack having drained our savings, I was 3 months behind on the mortgage. The bank had sent a formal notice of foreclosure proceedings. My mother extended her stay, using her retirement savings to help with expenses, but it wasn't sustainable. I returned to work part-time, arranging my schedule around Lily's therapy appointments and court dates. Patrick assigned me to desk work, cold calling potential clients, a demotion that signaled my partnership track was effectively dead. Samantha's situation added another layer of complexity. She attended therapy sessions with a different counselor specialized in children who enabled or participated in abuse. Reports indicated she was struggling in school, lashing out at teachers and withdrawing from peers. Her therapist suggested she was caught in a loyalty conflict, encouraged by Jack to maintain secrecy about family dynamics. During a supervised visit at the Family Counseling Center, Lily trembled uncontrollably at the sight of Jack. The court-appointed supervisor noted her distress, but allowed the visit to proceed because Jack followed protocol, bringing gifts and speaking softly. "Daddy misses you so much," he told her, while the supervisor watched. "Soon we'll be a family again, I promise." Lily was inconsolable afterward, regressing to bedwetting and refusing to sleep alone. Dr. Chen documented these reactions, but Judge Hartley deemed them expected adjustment difficulties rather than evidence the visits should stop. My support network continued to shrink as Jack's public relations campaign gained traction. Former friends avoided eye contact at the grocery store. My real estate clients quietly requested different agents. Anonymous comments appeared on my professional profile suggesting I had fabricated abuse allegations to distract from my own neglect. 1 month after the custody ruling, Brian called with alarming news. Jack's attorney filed for a modification of the custody agreement. They're requesting expanded visitation, including overnight stays, based on Jack's exemplary compliance with court orders. "That's impossible," I said. "It's only been 4 weeks. The original order specified 6 months of demonstrated improvement. They're arguing that Lily's continued distress indicates she needs more contact with her father, not less. They've submitted a statement from a psychologist who's never even met Lily, claiming that children often fear what they need most." I hung up the phone and sank to the kitchen floor, overwhelmed by the relentless assault on reality. Jack had endangered our daughter's life, Yet somehow I was being positioned as the unreasonable parent for trying to protect her. That evening, while helping Lily with her bath, I noticed fresh bruises on her upper arm. "Sweetheart, what happened here?" I asked gently. She looked away. "I'm not supposed to tell. It's a secret." My heart raced. "Lily, no one is allowed to hurt you. Did someone hurt your arm?" Tears filled her eyes. "Daddy squeezed really hard when the nice lady wasn't looking. He said if I tell, they'll take me away from you forever." I documented the bruises with photographs and immediately reported the incident to Detective Rivera and Brian. A medical examination confirmed the bruises were consistent with an adult hand gripping with significant force. Yet when we presented this evidence at an emergency hearing, Jack's attorney argued successfully that the bruises could have come from anywhere. Without the supervisor witnessing the incident, it was Lily's word against Jack's. Judge Hartley ordered the visitations to continue. My mother and I sat on the porch swing that night, watching fireflies blink in the gathering dusk. "The system is designed to give abusers second chances at the expense of children's safety," she said quietly. "I've seen it too many times in my nursing career." "What am I supposed to do, Mom?" I whispered. "I can't keep her safe within the rules they've set." She took my hand. "Then you change the rules. You find people who understand what you're up against. You create your own system." The next day, I reached out to a childhood friend who had mentioned working with a child advocate in Chicago. Through this connection, I was introduced to Gerald Thompson, a retired detective who specialized in child abuse cases and now worked privately to help protective parents navigate broken systems. "The courts are failing your daughter," Gerald stated bluntly during our first meeting at a coffee shop far from our neighborhood. "You need a strategic approach that operates within the law, but outside traditional channels." "I'll do anything to protect Lily," I said. Gerald nodded. "First rule: appear to concede while actually gathering irrefutable evidence. Second rule: build a support network of people who truly understand what you're facing. Third rule: document everything, even things that seem insignificant." With Gerald's guidance, I developed a comprehensive plan. I would appear to break down, offering Jack a generous settlement that would lower his guard. Meanwhile, I would work with Gerald to install legal monitoring devices in our home during Jack's supervised visits with Lily, which now took place at our house due to a modification he'd requested and the judge had granted. I reconnected with my tech-savvy college roommate Bethany, who helped recover deleted files from our family computer. The recovered data included disturbing searches on child custody across state lines and the effects of asthma medication withdrawal. While fighting to protect Lily, I also had to rebuild our financial stability. I took real estate courses online from my laptop in Lily's hospital room, keeping my skills sharp for the time when I could return to work fully. I created spreadsheets tracking every expense, every legal filing, every piece of evidence. I recorded every interaction with Jack, his parents, and Samantha, noting inconsistencies and concerning patterns. 2 months into this new approach, an unexpected ally emerged. Jack's mother Barbara called, asking to meet privately. At a quiet restaurant halfway between our home and their hotel, she slid a phone across the table. "I found this in Samantha's room," she said, her voice strained. "You need to see the messages between her and Jack. Thomas and I, we've been wrong. Very wrong." The phone contained hundreds of text exchanges, many discussing strategies to remove Lily from the picture permanently. In one particularly chilling message, Jack had written, "Once we get the custody arrangement changed, we'll move to Arizona. Lily can have an accident. Kids with asthma sometimes just stop breathing." Barbara's hands shook as she drank her water. "We thought you were exaggerating. We couldn't imagine our son. But after seeing how he interacts with Samantha when he thinks no one is watching, we can't ignore this anymore." With Barbara's permission, I forwarded the messages to Detective Rivera and Brian before returning the phone. This evidence, coming from Jack's own parents, marked a turning point in both the criminal investigation and custody case. The following week, during a supervised visit at our home, Jack attempted to take Lily outside against the supervisor's instructions. The hidden cameras Gerald had helped install captured him whispering to Lily, "If you run to my car really fast, We can go get ice cream and never come back. Wouldn't that be fun? When Lily began crying, the supervisor ended the visit. Jack's visitation rights were temporarily suspended pending investigation of the incident, but I knew it was only a matter of time before he found another judge willing to reinstate them. The breaking point came when my neighbor recorded Jack telling another father at the local playground, "Katie's making this whole storage room thing sound worse than it was." Lily was an inconvenience to my plans with Samantha. Kids are resilient. She'll get over it. This casual admission of intentional abandonment, captured by someone with no stake in our legal battles, became the final piece in a comprehensive evidence package that could no longer be dismissed as one parent's accusations against another. 6 months after finding Lily in the storage room, I had reached the limit of what I could accomplish within a system that seemed determined to give her abuser endless opportunities to harm her again. The time had come to force that system to function as it was intended, to protect the vulnerable, not the powerful. With Gerald's help, I prepared to go on the offensive. No more reactive defense. No more hoping authorities would do the right thing. Lily's life and future depended on my willingness to fight with everything I had. "The system has failed my daughter," I told Gerald as we finalized our strategy. "But I won't." The turning point came exactly 6 months and 2 weeks after I found Lily in the storage room. I sat in Gerald Thompson's cluttered home office, surrounded by case files and legal references, listening to his assessment of our situation. "The evidence we've gathered is substantial," he said, spreading photographs, transcripts, and medical reports across his desk. Jack's attempted abduction during visitation, the text messages Barbara provided, the playground admission, the recovered computer searches. It's time to stop playing defense. For half a year, I'd followed the rules of a system that repeatedly endangered my daughter. I'd attended every court hearing, complied with every order, documented every violation. In return, Lily had been forced into contact with her abuser, traumatized again and again, while judges deliberated and lawyers filed motions. "What's our strategy?" I asked, a new determination hardening my voice. Gerald leaned forward. "Comprehensive offensive. We present everything simultaneously to multiple authorities: family court, criminal investigators, child protective services, and the district attorney's office. We copy every communication to all parties, so no one can claim they didn't have the full picture." I nodded, energy surging through my exhaustion. "And we make it public?" "Carefully," Gerald cautioned. "No social media crusades or emotional interviews. We need a single, credible journalist who understands the significance of what we've uncovered." Gerald introduced me to Marlene Jenkins, an investigative reporter who specialized in family court failures. After reviewing our evidence under strict confidentiality, she agreed the story deserved coverage, not as a sensationalist piece, but as an examination of systemic failures that put children at risk. While building our legal offensive, I had to maintain financial stability and support Lily's ongoing recovery. My mother had returned to Chicago after 3 months, needing to resume her own life, though she visited frequently. I took real estate classes online during Lily's therapy sessions, earning a specialized certification in commercial properties that would eventually help rebuild my career. Most importantly, I connected with other protective parents fighting similar battles. Together, we formed a support group that met weekly in a church basement, sharing resources, strategies, and the emotional understanding that only comes from lived experience. Through this network, I met Sarah, a family law paralegal who had escaped an abusive marriage with her children. She helped me organize my documentation into a format courts couldn't ignore, creating a chronological timeline that showed the escalating pattern of Jack's behavior. "Judges hate disorganized evidence," Sarah explained. "They have hundreds of cases. Make yours impossible to dismiss with visual clarity and irrefutable documentation." Working through the night after Lily went to bed, I created coded binders with indexed sections, medical evidence, psychological evaluations, security footage transcripts, financial records, witness statements, and audio recordings. Each incident connected to the next, showing not isolated events, but a deliberate pattern of escalating abuse. Meanwhile, Jack's behavior grew increasingly erratic. After his visitation was suspended following the attempted abduction, he violated the restraining order twice, once appearing at Lily's school and once following us to her therapy appointment. Each violation strengthened our case, but heightened my anxiety about his desperation. Samantha's situation grew more concerning as well. Her teachers reported withdrawn behavior, alternating with aggressive outbursts. During a court-ordered evaluation, she refused to speak about Jack, but became visibly distressed when asked about her relationship with Lily. The psychologist recommended separate therapeutic placements for the girls, noting their relationship had been weaponized by an adult in a position of trust. Despite these recommendations, Jack's parents continued to push for Samantha and Lily to maintain contact, claiming they were sisters now who needed each other. I understood Samantha was also a victim of Jack's manipulation, but my priority had to be Lily's safety and recovery. 3 weeks into our new offensive strategy, Gerald arranged a meeting with Assistant District Attorney Veronica Diaz, who had taken a personal interest in our case after reviewing the evidence package. "I've seen a lot in my 15 years prosecuting family violence," she told me, "but the calculation involved in this abuse is extraordinary. The storage room incident alone supports felony charges. The evidence of planning and intentionality makes it much worse." For the first time, someone with authority saw the situation clearly. ADA Diaz promised to personally present the case to the grand jury for indictment on multiple felony counts: child endangerment, child abuse, attempted kidnapping, and violations of court orders. With the criminal case advancing, Brian pushed for an emergency custody hearing with a different judge. Judge Hartley had gone on medical leave, and his replacement, Judge Eliza Warren, had a background in child advocacy before joining the bench. Judge Warren reviewed our comprehensive evidence package over a weekend and called an emergency hearing the following Monday. Unlike previous hearings where Jack controlled the narrative with tears and promises of reform, this proceeding focused entirely on evidence and expert testimony. Dr. Chen presented her complete psychological evaluation of Lily, including recordings of therapy sessions where Lily described being told by Jack that Daddy and Sammy don't need you anymore before being locked in the storage room. Detective Rivera testified about the criminal investigation, including the recovery of deleted emails showing Jack had researched countries without extradition treaties in the weeks before his attempted abduction of Lily. Most damaging was the testimony of Jack's own mother. Barbara Williams took the stand with visible reluctance but unwavering resolve, describing conversations where Jack had spoken about Lily as an obstacle to his new life with Samantha. "I didn't want to believe my son could think this way about his own child," she testified, her voice breaking. "But I can no longer deny the evidence. Samantha has told us things concerning things about their relationship and his promises to her, about eliminating Lily from their lives." Jack's attorney attempted to paint Barbara as confused or manipulated by me, but her testimony was clear and consistent. Thomas Williams provided similar testimony, admitting they had enabled Jack's behavior by minimizing its seriousness and blaming me for his actions. The turning point came when Jack himself took the stand. Under questioning from Judge Warren, his carefully constructed facade cracked. When asked directly why he had locked Lily in the storage room, he snapped, "She was always whining, always needing something. Sam and I deserved time together without her constant demands." The courtroom fell silent. In that unguarded moment, Jack had revealed his true perspective. Lily was an inconvenience to be eliminated, not a child to be protected. Judge Warren's ruling came swiftly and decisively. Jack's parental rights were suspended pending the outcome of criminal proceedings. Lily was placed in my full custody with no visitation requirements. Samantha would remain with her grandparents with a strict order that Jack have no contact with her either. "The evidence in this case," Judge Warren stated, "demonstrates not a momentary lapse in judgment, but a calculated pattern of abuse and endangerment. This court's primary obligation is to protect the child, not the parent's rights to access." As we left the courtroom, Brian squeezed my shoulder. "This is just the beginning of justice for Lily. The criminal case will take time, but today was decisive." That night, for the first time in months, Lily slept through the night without nightmares. As I watched her peaceful breathing, I allowed myself to feel the first tentative hope that we might actually survive this ordeal and rebuild our lives. 2 weeks later, the grand jury returned indictments against Jack on all counts. When police attempted to arrest him, they discovered he had violated his bail conditions and fled. A multi-state manhunt located him at the Canadian border with packed suitcases, false identification, and a plane ticket to a non-extradition country. His capture and return to custody made local news, with Marlene Jenkins' thorough investigative piece running the same week. Unlike the sensationalist coverage Jack had courted earlier, this reporting focused on the systemic failures that had allowed an abuser to maintain access to his victim, despite overwhelming evidence of danger. The criminal trial was scheduled for 4 months later. In the interim, I focused on healing our family. Lily continued therapy, gradually regaining her confidence and security. I returned to work part-time, rebuilding my client base, with the support of Amanda and other colleagues who had stood by me. Most surprisingly, Barbara and Thomas Williams became unexpected allies. Their grief over Jack's actions was profound, but they channeled it into supporting both Lily and Samantha. Under careful therapeutic supervision, the girls began brief, structured interactions that acknowledged their complicated shared history while establishing new, healthier boundaries. 8 months after finding Lily in the storage room, I stood in our living room and realized something profound had changed. The constant fear that had become our baseline had lifted. Lily was laughing again, playing with abandon rather than careful restraint. I was sleeping through the night without checking her bedroom door every hour. We hadn't just survived. We were beginning to reclaim our lives and our future. The system had failed us initially, but by refusing to accept that failure, by fighting strategically and relentlessly, we had forced it to fulfill its purpose. Not perfectly, not easily, but effectively enough to protect a child who deserved nothing less than absolute safety. As Lily's 6th birthday approached, she made an unusual request. "Mom, can we move to a new house? One without a storage room?" Looking into her serious blue eyes, I realized no amount of renovation could erase the trauma embedded in these walls. "Yes, sweetheart," I promised. "We'll find a home where every room is filled with light." It was time to close this chapter and begin writing a new one where the darkness of the past had no place. Jack's criminal trial began 11 months after I found Lily in the storage room. The courtroom was nothing like the family court proceedings, no sympathetic looks for the overwhelmed father, no minimizing the seriousness of his actions. Assistant District Attorney Diaz presented a meticulous case, walking the jury through the calculated nature of Jack's abuse and the physical and psychological harm inflicted on a 5-year-old child. Defense arguments that Jack had been overwhelmed by grief and responsibility fell flat against the evidence of premeditation. Security footage showing him calmly leading Lily to the storage room, promising her a special secret adventure. Text messages with Samantha, planning their trip weeks in advance, explicitly discussing leaving Lily behind. Internet searches on asthma complications and child custody across state lines. When the jury returned after just 4 hours of deliberation, their verdict was unanimous: guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced Jack to 8 years in prison for child endangerment and neglect, with additional time for attempted kidnapping and violation of court orders. The restraining order protecting Lily and me was made permanent, extending beyond his eventual release. As Jack was led from the courtroom in handcuffs, I felt no triumph, only profound sadness that a father could betray his child so completely, and relief that Lily would have years to heal before facing any possibility of his return to our lives. The conclusion of the criminal case allowed us to fully focus on rebuilding. Following Lily's wish, we sold our house and found a light-filled bungalow in a different neighborhood, with a garden where she could plant sunflowers and a treehouse visible from the kitchen window. Professionally, I faced the challenge of reconstructing my career after more than a year of part-time work and personal crisis. Patrick had made it clear that my partnership track at Westlake Properties was permanently derailed, but Amanda approached me with an unexpected opportunity. "A group of us are breaking away to form our own agency," she explained over coffee. "We want to specialize in family, friendly communities, and inclusive housing. We need your expertise, Katie, and your perspective as a single mother navigating a difficult system." The offer came with flexibility I desperately needed and the promise of eventual partnership. 3 months later, Riverside Realty opened its doors, with my first project focusing on developing affordable housing for families transitioning from crisis situations. Samantha's journey proved more complicated. After Jack's conviction, she began opening up in therapy about the manipulation she had experienced. Jack had positioned himself as her rescuer after her parents' death, gradually isolating her from peers and normal activities, while fostering unhealthy attachment and dependency. He made me feel special by making Lily seem less important, she confided during a family therapy session. I didn't understand what was happening until I saw how scared she was of him. Then I started feeling scared too, but I didn't know how to stop it. Barbara and Thomas Williams committed themselves to Samantha's recovery, relocating permanently to be near both girls. Under careful therapeutic guidance, we established a visitation schedule that allowed the girls to rebuild their relationship at a pace that felt safe for both. The first visits were awkward, weighted with unspoken history. Lily remained wary, while Samantha vacillated between defensive withdrawal and excessive apology. But children possess remarkable capacity for renewal. 6 months into our new arrangement, I watched from the kitchen window as they collaborated on building a fairy garden, their heads bent together in concentration, occasional giggles floating through the open window. "They'll never have a conventional relationship," Dr. Chen observed during Lily's now monthly check-in. "But they're creating something authentic that acknowledges their shared trauma without being defined by it." As Lily's recovery progressed, I found myself drawn to advocacy work beyond our personal situation. The support group for protective parents that had sustained me during our darkest days expanded, with my living room hosting weekly meetings. Together, we created a resource network, connecting families in crisis with legal advice, emergency housing, and trauma-informed therapy. This work led to an invitation to testify before the state legislature on strengthening child protection laws. Standing at the podium, facing a committee of lawmakers, I shared our story not as a personal tragedy, but as evidence of systemic failure requiring concrete reform. "When I discovered my daughter locked in a storage room," I testified, "I trusted that our legal system would protect her from further harm. Instead, it repeatedly prioritized her abuser's access over her safety. This is not an isolated failure, but a pattern repeated in countless families' lives." The resulting legislation, while not perfect, created stricter standards for evaluating child safety in custody disputes and increased training requirements for family court judges on the dynamics of abuse and control. 1 year to the day after finding Lily in the storage room, I stood in our new backyard watching her chase butterflies with her friend Madison from next door. At 6 years old, she had regained much of her natural exuberance, though certain shadows remained. She still slept with her door open, still checked multiple times that the bathroom door couldn't lock her in, still asked me every morning, "You'll come back today, right?" But she was healing. We both were. My own therapy had helped me process the guilt and self-blame that had nearly consumed me in those early days. I had trusted Jack, had missed the signs of his changing behavior toward Lily, had prioritized work during crucial moments. These were facts I had to acknowledge, but they were not the entirety of my parenting story. The real measure of my motherhood wasn't in that initial failure to protect, but in the relentless fight that followed. The nights spent building legal cases while Lily slept, the career sacrificed without hesitation, the systems navigated and reformed, the absolute refusal to surrender my daughter's safety to convenience or convention. As summer turned to fall, new rhythms emerged in our household. School mornings with pancakes shaped like animals, weekend hikes in the state park, movie nights with popcorn fights and too many pillows on the living room floor. Barbara and Thomas brought Samantha for Sunday dinners, the adults maintaining careful vigilance while allowing the girls space to define their own connection. Through Riverside Realty, I developed a professional focus on housing solutions for families in transition, creating a network of property owners willing to work with parents rebuilding after domestic crisis. This work brought me into contact with Sarah Martinez, director of a local domestic violence shelter, who invited me to join their board. "Your experience bridges worlds that rarely communicate," she explained. "You understand both professional systems and personal survival. That perspective is invaluable." 16 months after the storage room discovery, Lily started first grade at her new school. Walking her to class that first morning, I watched her straighten her backpack straps with determination, her friendship bracelet from Samantha visible on her small wrist. "I'm a little scared," she admitted, squeezing my hand. "That's okay," I told her. "Being brave doesn't mean not feeling scared. It means doing what matters even when you're afraid." She considered this, then nodded solemnly. "Like you did when you fought to keep me safe from Daddy?" The simple truth of her perception caught me off guard. Yes, exactly like that. "Then I can be brave too," she decided, releasing my hand to join the line of children entering the classroom. Watching her walk away, head high despite her fear, I recognized the resilience we had both earned through fire. Our story had not ended in that storage room, as Jack perhaps intended. Instead, it had transformed into something neither of us would have chosen, but both had survived. A testament to the fierce protection that defines true love, and the courage required to rebuild from ashes. Today, our lives bear little resemblance to what they were 2 years ago. My partnership at Riverside Realty focuses on community development with family safety at its core. Lily thrives in second grade, her academic progress matched by her emotional growth. Samantha visits regularly, the girls' relationship evolving into a cautious friendship built on shared understanding, rather than enforced sisterhood. Jack remains incarcerated, his appeals denied. The permanent restraining order ensures that even after his release, he cannot contact Lily or me. Barbara and Thomas maintain separate relationships with their son and granddaughters, a painful division they navigate with remarkable grace. The support group that sustained me now helps dozens of families annually, connecting them with resources I had to discover through desperate trial and error. The legislative reforms sparked by our testimony continue to expand, with neighboring states adopting similar protections. None of this erases what happened. The storage room exists in Lily's memory, a dark space she revisits in occasional nightmares. But it no longer defines her world or limits her future. She knows now, in the unshakable way that reshapes a life's foundation, that she will be protected, that her voice matters, that love means safety, not just sentiment. As for me, I've learned that justice isn't always swift or complete, but it is possible. That systems fail, but can be forced to function through relentless advocacy. That the measure of our lives isn't found in moments of crisis, but in the daily commitment to something larger than our own comfort. Most evenings now, Lily and I end the day on our porch swing, watching fireflies illuminate the gathering dusk. Sometimes we talk about serious things, her memories, her fears, her hopes. Sometimes we simply sit in comfortable silence, counting stars as they appear. "Mom," she said recently, her head resting against my shoulder. "Remember when you said we'd find a house where every room has light?" "I do." She gestured toward our home, windows glowing warm against the darkness. "I think we did. But you know what? I think the light was us all along." Looking at my daughter's face, I saw not just the shadow of what she had survived, but the luminous strength of who she was becoming. And I knew she was right. The darkness had tried to claim us, but some lights refused to be extinguished. They grow stronger through challenge, brighter through adversity, until they illuminate not just their own path but the way forward for others still lost in shadow. If our story can help even one child find safety, one parent find courage, one community build better protections, then perhaps the darkness served its purpose after all, revealing by contrast the extraordinary resilience of the human spirit and the transformative power of love that refuses to surrender. What would you do to protect your child from harm? Would you fight against a system that fails them? Have you ever had to stand alone against someone who should have been your partner in protection? I hope our story gives you strength if you're facing your own battles, and perspective if you're fortunate enough to stand on solid ground. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share with someone who might need to hear that they're not alone in their fight for justice. Thank you for listening to our journey, and I wish you the courage to face whatever challenges come your way, with the same determination that carried us through our darkest days.